This is the LG Google Nexus 4 E960 screen replacement, and this is my first time working on this phone, so along the way just make sure you check the pictures for the screw layout, because I was kind of hunting around for these as I was going, and I didn't do everything in quite the order that I planned on. So you can see here that the screen is cracked. LCD is still good, but this is very similar to the Galaxy series and the iPhone 4s and 5s, which have a assembly that's lens, digitizer, and LCD all one piece. You can see the screen's not responsive at all here because of the break. So what we're going to do is start by removing a couple of screws from the bottom here. These are T5 Torx screws, and unfortunately I could not power down the phone because nothing was responding as far as the confirmation for powering down. So power is still on until we disconnect the battery from the inside. And you can see the back is also cracked here, but the customer opted only to repair the front screen for now. And it was actually pretty reasonable. I think the replacement cost for the part itself was about $150, so all things considered, not too bad. And once we remove these, you'll see that this actually lifts off. It's just clipped in around the edges. So if we go in with our pry tool down here at the bottom, you should be able to get under here just a little bit and kind of work your way around, and this whole back housing will pop off, the glass piece included. And of course, be careful when you're going anywhere near the charging port, the volume buttons, the power button. You don't want to go too deep with your pry tool. And one thing I had forgotten here, the SIM card tray. We always want to take that out first. And you'll notice as I started prying around the edges, I saw that, and of course we want to remove that. Sometimes the SIM card will go through the outer casing and into the frame, and if you force the frame, you can actually damage the card. Same thing is true whenever you're dealing with the micro SD card, so make sure that you remove those before you go any further. And now we'll go ahead and continue just prying, very shallow pry all the way around the entire perimeter of the phone, of the rear case. And at this point, I left one of my pry tools there so that the case didn't go back on and clip on. For some reason, this one's a little tricky to get off, so you just have to work your way around. And if you make some progress, you might want to just leave something stuck in there so it doesn't go back on and you don't have to do your work twice. And it's kind of starting to lift out at this point from the bottom. And I just kind of held that in place with my finger, and again, just gently, very slowly, worked right around here. Just go right around the power button. You don't need to pry too deep in where the power or the volume buttons are again. And at this point, I think it started to release. And you'll notice when we get inside this phone, it looks a lot like the Galaxy series Samsung's. So fortunately for this LG, not too difficult to work on, all in all. If you have the entire front assembly replacement part, this is probably a 20-30 minute job at the most. And you can see the back housing there that we're going to go ahead and set aside for now. And then we've got the two battery terminal screws and an antenna wire that plug into the logic board, and a total of 13 screws. So while I didn't do this in order, make sure you get every single one of these screws. Notice the two white arrows point to the screws that go into the battery terminal, which is a pop connector, and then make sure you have an additional 11 screws that you remove. They're all the same size, and they are all crosshair screws, so no big deal there. And you'll see that I kind of skipped a couple of them because I was kind of concentrating on other things at the time. And in a minute here, you'll see when I start to pry some of the housing off, it gets stuck, and it's because I had not removed all 11 of those screws yet. So make sure you get everything out of there before you go any further. And there's a little metal bracket, I believe, on top of this that may come off. I seriously can't remember because it's been a couple days since I worked on this one. Okay, so the entire battery pop connector just comes off all in one piece. Looks a little bit like an iPhone 4 terminal, as a matter of fact. And then we want to get underneath the battery here. There's a little bit of adhesive, so you can't see off camera. I did add a little bit of heat to this just to warm it up, and then just very gently went around the side here towards the edge of the phone with my spudger, and just a little bit at a time work on this. The battery has a certain amount of flexibility to it, but you definitely don't want to push it very hard. If you have something a little bit wider than this, like a putty knife, you kind of want to get as much of the battery as you can at a time. But I just chose to go ahead and go with this, and I just gently worked across a little bit, and you'll see now that it finally releases. And they really put tons of adhesive under here for some reason. apparently they're worried about the battery flopping around inside the case. So we'll pull that off, set it aside, and then again we have 11 remaining screws, and in addition to that an antenna wire that's plugged into the logic board. So make sure you get all those screws. And once you do, you can remove two separate pieces that cover the antenna assembly at the bottom and then the rest of the logic board you'll see here momentarily. And you'll notice that I got most of the screws. I think I left one or two behind up near the top, one in the center by the battery terminal, and then possibly one other one there. So this will actually start to pry off from the bottom. If you have all the screws released, you should be able to get this whole piece off of the phone. And I started going under the side here with the pry tool, and it did lift up a little bit, and then I finally noticed I've got a couple screws here remaining, so we want to make sure we get both of those off. One right there in the center by the battery terminal, and I think there's one right next to the camera that I also skipped over, if I remember correctly. And again, this will release pretty easily, nothing really holding it on there, except for this other screw at the top of the phone. So once you have all your screws out, this little plastic panel will lift off of the logic board. And I think there's maybe a clip down there in the bottom that you just kind of had to maneuver it around a little bit, and it should release. And you see I took a pry tool and kind of went under the edge there and did get that final clip out of position so that that will release the panel. And then we have one also down at the bottom. And I kind of skipped ahead here and started releasing some cables. There's a pop connector here, and then you've got also two more here at the top. One should be the lens, the other one will be the LCD. And they've got this funny silver kind of tape that goes over here. You can kind of bring that all along with the cable. You don't really have to heat that up or anything. It comes off pretty easily. And you can see the camera can be disconnected. It can probably come out with the logic board, but I wanted to kind of get a look at how this was assembled. So I did disconnect it as well as the headset jack here at the top. Those two kind of are independent of the logic board, so they are modular. And this actually lifted out from the top end, so you don't really need to pry on the edges like I was doing. This will come out pretty easily. And again, looking a lot like a Galaxy Series Samsung at this point. So we've got the replacement assembly for the front. You'll notice that there are a few things we need to transfer over, including the camera, the headset jack, some assorted rubber pieces there that are designed to route the sound in for the speakerphone. So make sure that you remove the adhesive off of the new piece so that this will stick into place, and that kind of holds it in position. This is the one that routes the volume for the input for the external mic for your speakerphone. And then we have all kinds of plastic and stuff here that we're going to get to peel off momentarily. We just want to take our time and make sure that we don't skip over anything. So we do have the camera, and then we've got the headset jack that both need to be transferred over to the new assembly. And those two cables right there I'm messing around with can pretty much stay. That's all included on the new one, as well as that silver tape. So fortunately we don't have to screw around with any of that. So you can see I'm kind of prying underneath the headset jack. There is some adhesive under here that's holding it into place. Use a little bit of heat and that comes off without too much effort, and that's probably going to be the front-facing camera as well, if I remember correctly. So we'll get all this stuff into position, and you definitely want to do this before you start putting the board back in, save yourself some time. And at this point I realized that there is a little rubber piece, I believe, that, that one fell out of position here at the top. And you can see there's another little rubber piece over here that went right underneath the either the camera or the sensor. Can be a little bit hard to tell. And that looks like it is a sensor actually that we're putting in here. So you need to have that rubber piece. If you don't, your screen will probably not black out when you make a phone call. So make sure you do not leave anything behind from the old assembly. And of course we need to transfer our camera as well, which can actually go in on top of the logic board. You don't have to move it across right now, but I'm pretty sure that's what I did. And we've got a little bit of adhesive under there as well. So we'll heat that up and just pry under here a little bit, very gently. You don't want to damage the camera, you just want to release it so you can get a hold of it and pull it off of here. And again, you don't necessarily have to put the camera in right away. That's the way I did it this time. First time working on the phone. But it can actually go in on top of the logic board and fit right down inside of the same area that it's situated in now. And then of course we want to go down to the bottom here shortly and transfer over our antenna assembly, as well as the volume and power buttons, which are in the side of the case here in our modular. It's kind of an interesting design. I've seen this on some LGs before, and they got a few tabs in there that will point in one direction or another. So make sure you take note of which direction the tabs are facing before you pull the buttons out. And we've got some adhesive here that will hold them in place, which is very thoughtful of the assembly manufacturer to do that for us. So this thing will stay inside the frame while we put the logic board in and reassemble the phone. So you can see that blue tape that I'm pointing to at the top actually stays where it is. We got some adhesive here that comes off where the earpiece is located. And then of course the big blue rectangle down there where the battery was will come off when we're ready to install the battery. And down here we're going to apply a little bit of heat because we've got a flex cable that is stuck down to the frame, and this is the only place on the new assembly where they did not actually include the adhesive. So you'll see later on that I added a little bit, and here if you take the spudger and just kind of pry on the center area of this speaker assembly, it actually comes off relatively easy. And then we can also go underneath this flex cable on the side very carefully, and the rest of this comes out. And as you can see, it is a modular charging port, so you can actually replace this entire unit on the bottom, no soldering required. If in the case of the very common charging port disaster where it becomes damaged and you can't charge the phone anymore. So let's go really carefully under here and just pry slowly, and you can, as you saw, I applied a little bit of heat here to make this more pliable, and we can take the entire piece out at one time and then just transfer it over to the new frame. And the rest of this is relatively easy. I'm going to cut the narration off now, and the video does cut off a little bit short here because from this point hopefully you can figure out the remainder, but apparently my camera ran out of storage, so I didn't get quite the end of the video here, but everything did go back together properly, and it's just a matter of putting the board back in, plugging in your pop connectors, and putting the covers over, put the back case on, put your screws in, and you'll be in good shape. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments section. I cannot respond to direct messages to the channel. And if you want some more information about cell phone repair, be sure to check out gomdwireless.com for more information about cell phone repair training. Thanks for watching.